Hey, good day to you all. Randy Perham here. See you down there. Candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for the great state and the last frontier, Alaska. So I put together a presentation for everyone today, just to kind of refresh minds on as to why Republicans voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. Now, a little bit of background here. The reason why I'm putting together this presentation for two reasons. One, there's some buzz on social media about me particularly voting for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012 since I'm a Republican. Now, understand, not everyone who's a Republican or even a Democrat will vote straight ticket party candidates. They just don't. Not everybody does that. And I'll illustrate that here in this slideshow as well. Now, the other side to that is, you know, candidates that present themselves as not favorable to the American people typically don't get voted for. And I will also illustrate that here in this slideshow as well. So sit back, enjoy. It's a short slide deck, but I will, in due diligence and in the art of promoting independent thinking, research, education, I will lay out the facts for you all. So enjoy and let's get started. Why did Republicans in America vote for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012? First, I think it's important that we get an understanding as to whether or not Americans, voters, actually select their president directly. And the short answer is no. That's why we have the electoral college system. State legislatures take the popular vote sometimes, and that plays a role as to who the electors will be to select the president. Now, we all know that we vote for the president on the first Tuesday in November, every even an even number of years, every 4 years. That's 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, etc. And the certification of the November election is actually done the following month in the second week of December by the legislature, and then they send their certified electoral votes to the seat of government in Washington, D.C., where it is read and certified in a joint session of Congress in January. So it's a 3-month process, so to speak, to identify who is the rightful winner of the president. Now, going back a little bit here, when there's a popular vote in a state, it does not necessarily mean that the electors will select that president that the popular vote wanted to get. Not in all cases. So there is some nuanced history behind that, but we'll leave that for another day. So, what happened in 2008? Barack Obama and John McCain went head to head, and their running mates was Joe Biden and Sarah Palin. Now, Barack Obama won in a landslide victory. It was more of an avalanche than a landslide, 365 to 173 of electoral votes. Now, looking at the popular vote count here on the slide, you'll see that he had 69 million votes to John McCain's 59 million, a percentage points of 52 to 45. Now, you may say, okay, now let's look at the United States map up top on the corner here. You'll see that, predominantly your coastal states, with the exception of a few central states, all voted for Barack Obama. Now, for all intent and purposes, because I am presenting this mainly as a teaching tool for Alaskans, I utilize the voter map for Alaska, as you can see on the bottom here, that a vast majority of Alaska voted for John McCain, although they only contribute 3 electoral votes to the overall electoral count. So if had not been for Alaska, John McCain would have had only 170, just for an example. Now, how did this happen? Early in the campaign, focused heavily on the Iraq War, in Bush's unpopularity. George Bush being a Republican, which I personally voted for twice. I didn't have a problem with Bush, really, to be honest. Some things it was kind of like, don't care for that, but nonetheless. Anyways, but McCain supported the war, and as well as the troop surge that had begun in 2007. While Obama strongly opposed the war, Bush endorsed McCain, but the two did not campaign together, and Bush did not appear in person at the 2008 Republican National Convention. Obama, on the other hand, campaigned on the theme that Washington must change. This resonated with a lot of Republicans. While McCain emphasized his experience, the campaign was strongly affected by the onset of a major financial crisis, which peaked in September of 2008. McCain's decision to suspend his campaign during the height of the financial crisis backfired, as voters viewed his responses as erratic. And now, it also coupled with, he was also going through, if everyone remembers, he was going through some medical issues at the time. So, and given his age and everything else, a lot of people saw, hey, he may not even survive his first term. And now we're looking at Sarah Palin, who was the governor of Alaska at the time, as, the potential president. So a lot of people don't, think about, but the vice presidential pick also plays a very, very strong part as to who voters would vote for in a presidential election. Now, the Republicans had, the Republican states, the red states, a lot of them had a change of heart, and traditionally voting Republican. And as stated here, Obama won a decisive victory over McCain, winning the Electoral College and the popular vote by sizable margins, including states that had not voted for the Democratic president candidate since 1976, North Carolina, and 1964, Indiana and Virginia. Obama received the largest share of the popular vote, won by a Democrat since Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1964, and was the first Democrat to win an outright majority of the popular vote since Jimmy Carter in 1976. Obama's total count of 69.5 million votes. Now, in context, let's think about this. There's at the time of 2008, roughly 310 million Americans in the United States, or 10 million citizens in the United States. Can't say all Americans because illegal immigration and everything else. But votes stood as the largest tally ever won by a presidential candidate until 2020, when this was surpassed by both major party candidates in a high turnout election. He was the first Democrat to win without Arkansas and Missouri since those states joined the Union in 1836 and 1821, and the first Democrat to win the presidency without winning West Virginia since 1916. Because one West Virginia elector voted for the Democrat in 1916, Obama was the first Democrat to win without any electors from the state since its founding in 1863. Obama flipped 9 states that had voted Republican in 2004. That would be Colorado, Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, and Virginia, as well as Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. Now, what did Alaskans do? So, here, as you can see on the screen, this is a exit poll breakdown of the voters and how they voted for McCain versus Obama. Decisively, a lot of voters voted for McCain. However, if you notice, there was a sizable minority vote for Obama versus whites for McCain. Now, does race play a role in voting for candidates? Not necessarily. However, in this unique situation in 2008, Barack Obama presented to America the opportunity to change the trajectory of voting for the first potential African American president in the United States. Now, historically speaking, Jesse Jackson, Shirley Chisholm ran in 1972 as a Democrat, but she did not clinch the nomination. Jesse Jackson ran in 1980, did not clinch the nomination. However, Barack Obama clinching the nomination, this solidified the potential for America to actually elect the first biracial in my book, but okay, for argument's sake, black president in the United States. So there you have that. Now we're looking over at the percentage of, no matter how you voted today, do you think yourself as a conservative or a Republican or a Democrat? And so 83% of the Democrat voters still identify themselves as Democrats. Now only 16% of Democrats actually identify themselves as Republicans, and vice versa. 6% who voted for Obama actually identify as um, a Republic as a Republican, excuse me, and 94% that voted for McCain. Well, so yeah, let me get that backwards. 6% of the Democrats who voted for for Obama were Republican, while 94% of the Democrats actually were Republican. So, it really, speaks volumes to how a candidate's presentation will play a role in whether or not who they vote for. Now, let's go on to the next slide here. Education also plays a factor. While high school through 4-year degree student people, they decisively voted for John McCain, while your postgraduate, your master's and above, 52% voted for Obama. So that could play a major role as to how voters would turn out as well. Now let's dig into this a little bit more here. John McCain got 192,631 Republican votes. That's 59%. And Barack Obama received 122,000 votes, 36%, out of Alaska. This is all Alaska. Ironically, Mark Begich was running in the Senate side during this election year, and he beat out the Republican incumbent with the same set of voters now, mind you. If you're looking at the numbers here, Mark Begich, a Democrat, beat out an incumbent Republican in a presidential election that went for this state to John McCain. This is what you call split ticket voting, ladies and gentlemen, or a result of split ticket voting. And so, although Senator Ted Stevens, a 40-year incumbent of the state, he was going through, some financial inquiries, indictments, and everything else. This could be the reason why Mark Begich pulled ahead and won this election. It could be. But nonetheless, Alaskans still voted for a Democrat senator, a Republican House member, and Don Young over Ethan Berkowitz, and voted for a Republican president. So it goes to show you that, how the mindset, the political mindset, and the strategic voting sense of people, and this is I just relegated this to Alaska, but we saw this across the board in all states. Now, we're going to move on from the 2008 election and talk about the 2012 election. Republicans continue to support Obama. Now you're looking at the map here. The United States map did not necessarily particularly change that much compared to the 2008 election. However, there was a seismic shift in the Alaska map. The areas that are blue now, majority of that was red in 2008. And so you see a collapse in Republican support for presidential candidates in this particular year, a strong collapse. Now, looking at the electoral count, 332 to 206. Romney did slightly better than McCain, but in large part, he had a more salable vice presidential candidate running with him, and Paul Ryan, who was at the time a representative in the House of Representatives there. So, looking at the voter count, the popular vote, 65 million to 60 million. Now, in this instance, Barack Obama lost roughly 4 million voters as Romney gained that change from the previous election under, what's his name? John McCain. So you'll see here the continued support, Republicans 136,000, that significantly dwindled from John McCain's 190 something thousand voters. A significant dwindle. Now, could it be because, they just wasn't feeling Romney? Did they just not vote? There's so many questions there as to why there is a 60,000 vote difference between Romney and McCain. Now, me personally, Romney was just not salable to me. I just couldn't, he's a very, very much into the elitist circles and very much a rhino. And that's why he was not such a favorite in Massachusetts as governor, and subsequently relocated to Utah, where he is now the senator out of Utah. But I will touch on that here later on. Now, Republicans who supported Obama in 2008, signaled that they would support him again in 2012, given the climate of what was going on politically at the time. The Hill contacted 17 prominent Republicans and members of the Republicans for Obama, also known as Obamacans, that launched across the country 2 years prior. Most of them defended the president and indicated that they might vote for him again in 2 years. In 2008, Obama secured the support of a broad coalition of independent and Republican voters, propelling him to the presidency. 9% of registered Republicans voted for him. This is across the United States. At a 3% improvement from Senator John Kerry's campaign 4 years earlier. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not uncommon for Republicans to, abandon ship in a sense and vote for the other party candidate, especially when they're really not all that salable, to begin with, and it's like, I don't really like their politics and what have you, because the Republican Party, just like the Democrat Party, it is very factioned. So what happened here? The campaigns focused heavily on domestic issues, and the debate centered largely around the sound responses to the Great Recession. Other issues included long-term federal budget issues, the future of social insurance programs, and the Affordable Care Act, Obama's marquee legislative program. Now, a lot of Americans were hoping that the Congress and the president at the time was going to produce a quality, sound, affordable health care plan. But unfortunately, that did not pan out because the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, said they had to pass it to see what was in it because they failed to do their due diligence into dissecting exactly how the Affordable Care Act was going to actually affect Americans. So, foreign policy was also discussed, including the end of the Iraq War in 2011, military spending, the Iranian nuclear program, and appropriate counteractions to terrorism. The campaign was marked by a sharp rise in fundraising, including from nominally independent super PACs. Obama defeated Romney, winning a majority of both the Electoral College and the popular vote. Obama won 332 electoral votes and 51% of the popular vote, compared to Romney's 206 electoral votes and 47.2%. Obama was the first incumbent since Franklin Roosevelt in 1944 to win re-election with fewer electoral votes and a smaller popular vote margin than had been won in the previous election, and was also the first two-term president since Ronald Reagan to win both. His presidential bids with a majority of the nationwide popular vote, 50% or more, and the first Democrat to do so since Franklin D. Roosevelt. This was also the first presidential election since 1944 in which neither the Republican nor the Democrat nominee had military experience. This is also the first election in which a major party nominee lost his home state. Al Gore lost it in Tennessee in 2000, as Mitt Romney lost his home state of Massachusetts during this election. So even his home state was not feeling him being president. That says a lot. Now the aftermath. Told you this was gonna be short. The aftermath. While enchanted with the high, ran high with Obama's presidency for many reasons. Being the first potential black president, the promises of uniting the country. There was just so many things going on in 2008. And then, people said, okay, things happen and he's getting his feet wet still and still trying to learn the ropes. So let's give him another chance in 2012. That became, the marquee ideology behind many voters, especially many Republican voters who continued to support Obama in 2012. Now, proved to be the case of voting of the lesser evils outside of John McCain and Mitt Romney, which those two candidates clearly were just not in a favor for Republicans at the time. There's also varying degrees of voter logic that boil down to the backgrounds and experiences of voters. They come from different walks of life, economic statuses, education status. So their identity to any particular party could be for varying reasons as well. Republicans who voted for Obama in 2012 felt disenfranchised and were not thrilled about their vote. And this is very much true. A lot of people were pissed off that, okay, we gave him 2 terms and he didn't do crap, or he's just divided the country and did so many things, and I'm one of them. So much of that happened. The sentiment was so high with that in 2014 midterms there was a referendum on Obama stalling his presidency. The 2014 election yielded a decisive victory for Republicans. They took control of the House and the Senate in decisive margins, stopping and stalling anything else Obama could do for the next 2 years, and ushering in a 2016 Trump presidency with a strong congressional majority, or better known as a unified government, because we had a Republican president and a Republican-controlled Senate and House. Now, the voter demographics have not significantly changed at all between 2008 and 2020. The emergence of party factions still exists to this very day. We had the Tea Party during the Obama years, the Obamacans, the Republicans that were against Republicans, and supported Obama. And then we now see the emergence of the Lincoln Project and the Reagan Project, who are also not in favor of President Trump. So you have these dichotomies within parties that exist. Significantly, the change, however, was the Republicans that see the state GOP provides a stark warning for future elections. And what I mean by that is we see that many folks who are traditional Republicans, they are willing to stand up and go against their state party in efforts to bring in candidates, or to vote in candidates to oust those that they may not particularly care for. So I hope you all enjoyed this presentation today. Just a quick historical breakdown as to what happened in 2008 and 2012, as to why many Republicans such as myself voted for Barack Obama versus John McCain and Mitt Romney. Just because you're a Republican does not mean you always will vote for Republican candidates for various reasons. And in the case of McCain and Romney, they simply were not, strong candidates, and they both came with a lot of baggage that the American people was just not really ready to deal with. References are here. I'll leave it up for a minute for those that would like to go back and fact check my work. As I said at the top of the program there, I am a political science grad student with American Military University, uh, and also a U.S. congressional candidate for the great state of Alaska. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you learned something today, and I hope that you'll go forth realizing and understanding that your vote matters, just not so much in a presidential election, but it votes, we directly, as voters, we directly influence the selection of our senators, our representatives, and our state legislators and governors and so on and so forth. So if you want to ensure that your state, your party, will be in accordance with selecting the same party president, you have to affect your local elections first. I'm Randy Perham. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you all on what's today, Saturday, Monday, on the new Now We Put the Wisdom on Randy and April at 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Take care, and God bless you all, and see you soon.